If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
And the Coach Adam Fossett Show brought to you by the B.B. Comer Booster Club, and a big win for B.B. Comer. Even though it may have been a little bit sloppy, it was a W as B.B. Comer wins over Lafayette last Friday night here at Legion Stadium. And Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning.
A W is a W, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. A win is a win. So we came out on fire. We drive down the field. We get a lucky break on a penalty that gives us a first down, but we drive down the field and score on the opening drive. So I feel pretty good about that. And then kick off to them, go 3 and out, we get the ball back, and that's when we kind of started sputtering a little bit offensively, and we couldn't really find a groove and kind of getting a groove offensively until the second half. So go back and forth. We're down 12-6 at halftime. We tried to give it up late. We're up 22-19 late in the game, and we fumble. All we needed to do was pick up 2 first downs. We fumble, and the very next play they throw it deep, and DeLeon Wilkes picks it off and takes it back probably to about the 40, and we're able to run the clock out from there. So.
Protecting the football. I mean, you teach that and coach that, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, it happens, and I was never a back, but just based on reactions that I've seen in coaching, there's no worse feeling than knowing that you coughed up the ball and you got to come back to that sideline after doing that. So, it's I guess from a lineman's terms, it's kind of like giving up a sack. It's not something that you meant to do; it's just something that happened. But ball security is something that we've worked on this week and put an emphasis on. Not necessarily because of that fumble last week, but because of the weather this week, and we're more than likely going to be playing on a pretty wet field, and didn't know earlier in the week, is it going to be raining on Friday? It looks like that's going to be out of here. But no matter the rain being gone, there's been a ton of rain dropped, so it'll be a wet field, and the ball will be wet. So we have focused on some ball security for our backs this week.
We talked last week about special teams, kicking and punting, and it's kind of odd that this morning we talk about the punting game for B.B. Comer really stepped up and was a chief factor in the win.
It was. So we offensively, like I said, we were sputtering, so a lot of 3 and outs, and Chris Wilson is a freshman for us. He's a offensive lineman, defensive lineman, big kid, 6'3", and he kept, he's like, let me punt. So last week, at the beginning of the week, come on, Chris, let's see what you got. And he punts a couple, and they look pretty good. And so I tell him Friday, hey, you're going to be punting. The first time we punt, you're in. We'll see what you can do. And he booms one, and it goes probably 40 yards. And I'm like, well, we'll stick with it until it fails us, So. But he did a great job, very consistent, has good hands as far as catching the snap and seeing the snap, catches it, and gets rid of the ball. So he really, really helped us out a ton because he flipped the field for us on numerous occasions when he was able to get a good punt. And for one thing about his punts is they always seem to get a good roll. The way it comes off his foot, he's going to get a good roll. And we do a good job. We did a good job last week getting down there. So the returner is very hesitant about trying to catch the punt, even to fair catch it. So if the returner doesn't touch it and we get a good roll, that helps us out a ton. So we're able to pin them deep a couple times and be able to fight our way back defensively.
People may wonder this morning why we're talking about the punt game. Well, it's been such a thorn in the flesh for B.B. Comer.
It has. When you call punt, you kind of cringe and you hold your breath until that snap's done. So, but it's something that I think our guys are finally understanding. This is important stuff, and the big key is, like with special teams, you want to find guys that aren't starters to help you give your starters a break. Well, if that can't happen and we're not successful, then starters go back on special teams. So our older guys and our starters have kind of taken they've kind of taken an approach of, hey, we're going to make sure these guys are ready. So our starters are on, if we run a scout team punt return, they're out there on punt return, and they're kind of helping these guys out.
Kind of coaches themselves.
Yeah, they're kind of coaching them up. So that gives them a break.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them a time between offense and defense to get water and get a break. And as coaches, it helps us too. It gives us an opportunity to make any changes or just kind of talk about what's going on the field. So that it works well, and it gives young kids snaps. So we try to do it that way. We try to get some of those guys some snaps and through special teams. But again, if there's a letdown, then you got to come off.
A couple of guys that you haven't mentioned this morning already that stepped up and played well for BB Comer last Friday.
Rafael Johnson had a really good game for us. He had 11 carries for 115 yards.
Pretty good average.
And a touchdown, yeah, no doubt. Devontae Carmichael had 2 touchdowns for us on some short runs. Defensively, I was impressed with how well we played. Rafael came up and played well for us defensively. John Murphy had an interception for us at linebacker last week. Daylan Welch had an interception for us. Defensive line-wise, Corey Anderson has really been getting after it and wreaking havoc. Zach Carpenter has done a good job just kind of getting pressure on in the backfield. So, and we're going to need that this week. We're going to need defensive linemen that can get in the backfield and wreak havoc.
Johnson and Carmichael, they've got to be big for you every week.
Right. Yeah, they do, and we've been waiting. Carmichael hasn't had that big game yet, and I told him at the beginning of the week, you're due. You've had decent games, but you haven't had just a breakout game like you had last year. So, as far as running the ball and even throwing the ball, right now that's kind of an Achilles heel for us is the passing game. That's something that we've worked on all week is throwing the ball and putting him in the best situations and best scenarios to throw the ball, and just kind of reworking that and polishing that up, because you don't want to be one-dimensional. Being an old school guy, I like being able to line up and just run the ball. That's what I would like to do. But the reality is, you can't go through a whole season and be one-dimensional. You've got to be able to be successful at both running and throwing the ball offensively.
22-19 BB Comer over Lafayette last week. I was talking with Coach Fossett before we came on, and I was mentioning about I didn't remember, it's been a long time for sure, BB Comer and Ranford had played, and you said they hadn't played as far as you knew at all.
Right, as far as I know, and based on the high school history webpage, they've never met, never played. So this will be Comer's first trip to Ranburne, and we hope to bring back another region win.
They're 1-3, and got a capable football team.
They do. They're capable of producing big plays. They throw the ball all over the place. So they're in spread, they're in trips, they're throwing quick screens, they're throwing deep routes. They're literally all over the field. So
what pressure does that put on your defense?
I think it frees us up a little bit, to be honest with you, especially on our defensive front to kind of pin our ears back and go get it. So pressure is going to be on our defensive backfield. They've got to make sure that they're in the right coverage and they're where they're supposed to be. So the success for us is going to lie in getting pressure on the quarterback. So they've played 2 quarterbacks. Last week, the quarterback that started was an 8th grader. And from what I understand, their starting quarterback was out, but I don't know if he'll be out for this game or not. That's not something that we're privy to. We'll find out Friday when we get there. But I thought the 8th grader did a very good job. I mean, he kept his composure against a very good Randolph County defense. They put up 21 points against them, and he still threw the ball all over the place too. So whatever quarterback we get, both of them are dangerous. Both of them can be dangerous. So it's going to be key for defense to have another big night. Offensively, we've got to get in a groove and get in a rhythm. And we've had a pretty good week. Made a few little changes here and there that'll help us out. But we've had a good week, and even yesterday we went and practiced at the stadium because are we going to play in rain? Or are we going to so we had a good practice with using a wet ball. Obviously, we weren't on a natural surface dealing with the mud and the muck, but dealing with the rain and a wet ball that gets them acclimated to what could possibly happen. So. And I try to be very upfront with the guys on that too. Hey, look, the field's going to be wet, the ball's going to be wet. So just in preparing them, that's the key. Prepare them for anything that may come their way, and then we can go and be successful.
Not having played Ranburne at all in the history of these two schools, you're going into a place that you don't know anything about, a different type football team, and the kids, they're more apt to be star-studied than coaches are because you've been around more. How do you kind of keep them focused on the task at hand?
After last week, I feel like, and just with the week of practice we've had, I feel like our focus has been pretty good this week, and it's a tribute to the guys just maturing and understanding the big picture. This is a road game for us. It's a region game for us, and we have to kind of treat it as a business trip. We've got a job to do, and let's go to Ranburne and do our job.
These kind of games, region games against a foe you never faced before on their turf. You got to win this game. Right.
This is a region game that you got to pick up region wins early and often. And I said that in our region last year, and it's true in the region this year as well. We've got. I think when everything sorts itself out with our region, there's going to be teams that they beat this team but lost to this team. I think there's going to be a lot of three-way ties for probably the 2 through 4 spots. There could be 3 or 4-way ties. I think Lynette is the clear number 1 in our region. I don't see them faltering unless they just have a major hiccup. Very, very talented team and very experienced team. I would say their experience outweighs their talent, and I think that'll carry them a long ways through the region and into the playoffs. But from then on out, you look at the rest of the schedule, and you have a lot of unknowns. Vincent's in our region. They've played 1 game. They beat Horseshoe Bend. That's their first game of the season. So they play Fayetteville Friday night. So you'll start learning a little bit more about them. You'll learn a little bit more about Fayetteville. Randolph County is looming in the distance, and Randolph County is number 2 in 2A right now. So you just kind of you play them 1 week at a time, and I explain that to our guys too. Let's take them 1 week at a time. We can't go 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 without going 3-1. So focus on Ranburne. That's who we need to be worried about. Next week we'll focus on who's next.
All right, Ranburne and B.B. Comer Friday night, 7:00 kick. Not only is Coach Fossett the head football coach, he's the athletic director, and other sports going on right now too.
Oh yeah, volleyball is going on. They had a huge area win against Vincent Tuesday night, Monday night. I'm losing track of my days. They had a big area win against Vincent early this week. They're starting to come together and play very well together. Volleyball was. We're very fortunate in volleyball to be able to have 3 teams. So to be such a small,
that's such a growing sport.
Oh yeah, and to be such a small school at a 2A, most of your 2As don't have a junior high, JV, and a varsity. So our junior high plays some pretty big schools, and it's tough sometimes because some of those bigger schools, they've been playing since they could walk. But doing a good job. Coach Etheridge is doing a good job running our overall volleyball program. And she does a good job with Molly Medine is our junior high coach, and Tabitha Wheeler is our JV coach. So they do a good job with the girls and getting them prepared for games and the things that they need to do to be successful.
Finally, this morning, getting back to football, a third of the way through, have you been able to gauge this Tiger football team?
We discussed that yesterday after practice. anytime you're dealing with athletes these days, it's almost like you need a degree in psychology. So getting a read on our guys is tough sometimes, but there's been a lot of energy this week. There's been a lot of just a lot of positive this week. So you hope that carries over into game day. And the toughest thing for me in engaging our guys is that I don't have all of them 5 days a week. And with the way that the school is set up, with the way we're doing the A day, B day, and A through L comes Monday, Tuesday, and M through Z comes Thursday, Friday, and so forth and so on. I don't get to see them all week, and I know when we're in a typical school setting for 10 to 12 hours that day, I know where they are and what they're doing. So on Fridays, half of my team is at home, and they're probably sleeping in. That we tell them you don't have to get up early, but get up, get moving, make sure you're drinking fluids, stuff like that. Well, that's one thing we've seen is that the kids that are on Fridays that don't have to come are the ones that are a little more sluggish and take longer to get going on game days. So we've really kind of focused on that, and I've talked to those guys about getting up, doing your schoolwork, drinking water, stretch if you need to, be active, get the blood flowing so that you're awake and alert when you get here for the game. So, and they're trying to figure it out too. It's a lot of stress on the kids as well. Like their lives have been kind of flipped upside down because now they're trying to do work at home. They got to go to school a couple of days, and they go home, and so it's kind of stressful on everybody, and you can kind of see that stress on the kids sometimes. But I hope that we go back to a regular regiment soon, just so I can have all my athletes on campus at the same time.
Yeah, and once that happens, we'll have to have we may have withdrawal pains from playing games on a computer.
That's the other thing. All the gaming, staying up late and gaming, and one of my guys a couple of weeks ago said he stayed up till like 2 o'clock playing games. I'm like, what? Why? Like, just go to bed. That game will be there tomorrow. So, but it makes it tough not having them there.
All right, good luck for the Tigers as they take on Ranburne Friday night. First time in the history these two teams have played. Coach Adam Fossett Show brought to you this morning by the B.B. Comer Booster Club. More sports coming up as we continue our Coach's Corner right after this.